I hired the golf club up on the Downs, and people flew in from around the world, and we did this celebration which he didn't expect of. It's all clear, and then of course 6 months later he's dead. All of a sudden, money was an issue. Money was the issue now. It was no longer, forget journeys, we've got to survive. I went to the bank and I convinced them to give me a £20,000 bank loan, which again doesn't sound like a lot, but when you've got nothing, and I sat there looking at this money and I thought, you know what did Dad teach me? Dad taught me if I've got an issue and I need to solve the issue, go solve it. So I've got two choices. I give it back to the bank and say I don't want it. Well, I'm never going to do that. That's just crazy, right? So therefore, I've got to give it away. Karma being what it is, 6 months or so after we started giving the money away, I landed at the time what was my biggest contract at work. It was just circumstances. Dad got ill, Dad died, the business going under, borrowed the money, the window cleaner turning up. It was all just a set of circumstances that led us to where we are. If you're going to wait until the time is right, then we should end the conversation, because I guarantee you the time is never right. Do it now. Whatever it is in life, do it now.
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. Through sharing the stories of our guests, I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey.
You take your eye off the ball at work. Because Dad was the most important thing. I always talk about Dad and not Mum. Mum's still with us, and I love her as much as I do him. Yeah. I'm focusing on him because he was that part of my journey. I don't want to, because she's so amazing as well. And I could do a whole podcast just of my mum, if I'm honest. But I took my eye off the ball. I couldn't understand. I couldn't believe Dad was going to die. I mean, there was that was never going to happen ever. But he was unwell, and like I said, I took my mind off the business, and we had a couple of years of him being really unwell, and then we had the all clear, of course. He had the operations, he'd had the chemo, and so on and so forth. And I hired the golf club up on the Downs, and people flew in from around the world, and we did this celebration which he didn't expect of. It's all clear, and then of course 6 months later he's dead. This is such his life, right? So pleased we did the party, by the way. Anyway, after we lost Dad, my mum was in bits. They'd been married for 40 years, and were a partnership, and he was just turned 61 at this point, or literally just. And I then looked at Mum, and she needed looking after. They had the family, her and Dad's house, which had a big mortgage on it, and zero income coming in, of course. So what do we do with that? And where did she live? I knew she wouldn't stay in the family house. I mean, I knew that, because I think you either bed in or you have to leave. So she moved in with Sharon and I for a year. So I had to look after that. My sister, again, just the way our family is reliant on my business as well, and I'm not saying I give it to her. She works her socks off, bless her heart, but it is reliant on what I do, her income, and my family, of course. Again, my wife is a real grafter, but it's my income that covers everything. All of a sudden, money was an issue. Money was the issue now. It was no longer, forget journeys, we've got to survive. My dad isn't there, and again, it's weird because it wasn't that he ever brought the money in those years. It was our business or my business, but having him there and concentrating on growing the business is what I was always doing. All of a sudden, I've had now probably 3 years of not working the business, therefore not delivering. So we are losing clients by the bucketful, clients who are used to me being around. So and then we're and this was the new business I was trying to build up, of course. So I hadn't given it the time it needed, and we were losing business and I had all this money going out, and I had to find somewhere for my mum to live and still keep that going. And at this point, we had our first child, Asher, who was only 6 months old. All of this stuff going on. And so I went to the bank, and I convinced them to give me a £20,000 bank loan, which again doesn't sound like a lot, but when you've got nothing,
Yeah.
it's a fortune.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a fortune. This is 16 years ago now.
Yeah.
So the business is 15, 16 years old at this point, 15 years old. And my plan was, again, not good at writing business plans. It was the wrong business plan I wrote.
Yeah.
Was buy new desks, they're all falling down. Upgrade the computers because they're all a bit slow and clunky. Paint the office. All the stuff to avoid doing what I had to do.
Yeah.
You know, all the red herrings.
Yeah,
Let's sort them out. So I borrowed this £20,000 and I was sitting on my desk and I was sort of working out where to put this money, what computers to buy and all this. And my secretary buzzed me up to say there's a guy come to see you. And I was like, I'm far too important. I've got no one in my diary. I've got to spend this money and send him away, whoever he is. You know, terrible attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I was suffering. Just lost my dad literally a week before, but still, hardly generous of me. Anyway, so she said that's fine. He said he'll come back. He knew your dad. He was just wanted to stop and give his condolences. So then you feel like a right idiot. And I was like, oh my God, God, send the man up, of course.
Yeah.
Really felt embarrassed by my behaviour. So he comes up. And he would have been in this guy. I don't know how old he was, but I'm going to guess early 70s. He'd just heard about Dad dying. He'd been out the city for a while, and he'd just heard about. He'd come back, just heard Dad had died, and he literally cried his eyes out.
Wow.
And I was comforting him on his loss, and I said to him as he was leaving, I was curious, because you haven't told me anything about you. All you've told me is about how wonderful my dad was, which is lovely to hear. But Dad was my best friend, and I don't know who you are. So how does that work? You know what? His reaction was that strong. I need you to understand the connection. And Dad said he was my window cleaner. He said I was your dad's window cleaner. So anyway, he went on his way, and I spoke to Sharon, and I said, do we have a window cleaner? And she said, yeah, we have a window cleaner. I was like, what's his name? She said, Louise the window cleaner. And I sat there, and it was one of those moments when you kind of check yourself. And I thought, now I get Dad. Now I really get Dad. And I didn't before this. He made the window cleaner feel like the king, and I didn't even know I had a window cleaner. And I felt, again, embarrassed by that. And it was a massive change in my life. I mean, that change put on a how I treat people now compared to how I did.
Yeah.
It's just, and I sat there, I went back to work, and I sat there looking at this money, and I thought, you know what did Dad teach me? Dad taught me, if I've got an issue and I need to solve the issue, go solve it. Don't hide behind it. So if I need to save my business, I need to go out there and sell mortgages, and I need to sell insurance, and I need to go back and do what I did when I started the business. Desks and computers and painted walls, it's all a red herring. So I thought the only way I can do that comfortably is if I didn't have this bank loan. If I'm back in the corner now and I'm stuck there and I've got to fight, I can't do it with 20 grand cash in the bank. I've never had cash in the bank. I've got to get rid of it. So I've got two choices. I give it back to the bank and say I don't want it, but I'm never going to do that. That's just crazy, right? So therefore, I've got to give it away. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to give this 20 grand away in my dad's name, as if Dad's left us an inheritance.
Yeah.
I didn't tell Sharon about the bank loan, or my sister or my brother-in-law, because I had them over for my brother-in-law and sister over for dinner, and I sat down and I said, well, I've got this £20,000 from Dad. Because if I told them, they all would have gone, that's ridiculous. You're not giving away a bank loan. You've got to pay it back, and which I would have to do, and I definitely wasn't going to tell the bank. I mean, so I pretended it was an inheritance, and we gave it away, and we spent about a year giving this money away, with no real. When I say no thought, there was no plan, but the thought process was do it in Dad's name, find individual young people in the city or projects in the city or attached to the city that need some money. And let's say Edward Starr left this, it's for you. And so I opened up the Argus on the first day of that thought, and there was a small article about this girl, Michelle Partlett, who was trying to open up a school in Tanzania, and she'd lost the final bit of the funding. I didn't know what her journey was to get there. It didn't matter to me. There's a girl in Brighton who was trying to open up a school in a deprived part of the world, and she was a couple of thousand short, but that was enough for it not to open. And the Argus just ran it. It wasn't a begging story. It was just, this has happened, and this poor girl. So I contacted the Argus, put me in touch with her, and I phoned her up. And I said, don't know me, but my dad's left some money. He would have wanted you to have the £2,000. So she came and collected it. The school opened, and within a couple of months, there's the Edward Starr. His name is blazoned across this wall on this school in Tanzania.
Wow!
But with that's what we did. We literally, all of us, were scouring around who we can help. And then my sister, who's incredibly creative, turned around and said, while we're doing this, why don't we see if we can add some money to that? We'll hold a barn dance. We'll celebrate what we've done and see if we'll give some more money away. Okay, it wasn't my desire to get more money to give away, but we can do that. It'd be fun. And then other people were seeing what we were doing stuff for us. The people were running marathons for us, doing long bike rides for us. But there was no us. Yeah. They thought there was. Yeah. They thought we were building this charity, but there was no desire, no need, no plan to. I was doing it to make me feel better, having lost my dad. I was doing it so I had that fear, so I could go back to work. Interestingly, of course, karma being what it is, 6 months or so after we started giving the money away, I landed at the time what was my biggest contract at work, which transformed the company completely. And all of a sudden, I could do the desks and the computers and take on the new staff, and we had a future ahead of us. I said karma's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Yeah. And so I said to my sister, well, look, you're not working. You could do with an income. And Tracy's friend, Rosie, said, I wouldn't mind helping out. So I said, well, as Seiko, we've got some money coming in now. Again, rather than building up a pot of money, for me, the obvious thing was to give it away. Crazy, isn't it? That's just my thought process. It's very weird. So I said, well, I'll pay you a salary. Let's set up a charity. Let's do some events. Let's see what happens. And so there was no business plan, no desire. It was just a
back of a fab packet.
It was just circumstances. Dad got ill. Dad died. The business going under. Borrowed the money. The window cleaner turning up. It was all just a set of circumstances that led us to where we are. And we just started giving the money away. 15 years now. 15 years on.
Wow.
And I think that the charity is one of the most respected in the city. Yeah. I think we've gone from a very small unknown charity to, who hasn't, in all seriousness, very few haven't heard of the Starr Trust now.
Absolutely.
And we punch above our weight, but we've helped 4,000 plus children. I say children, that's not fair. Young people up to the age of 25. 4,000 odd in many locally, but also in numerous countries around the world. And we've just helped them. We've given them what Dad gave me, what we said right at the beginning of this chat. We've given them somebody who goes, you are worth it, we do care, and you can do whatever you want. And it doesn't matter where that leads them in terms of their journey. What it does is it gets them on their own journey. And sometimes we've had Olympians come out of this. We've had educators come out of this. We've had young people who have just now become functioning human beings again. Wow. And that's really exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's just that. The money's important. We give them an award, a grant. We give them some money to enable them to go to school, to be an apprentice, to go on a sports journey, to whatever it might be. But actually, what's really important, that's an enabler to start them off. Yeah. What's really important is that they know we care, and that they know there's someone out there who really, really cares and has absolute belief in them. And that's the power, isn't it? Yeah. And so all we've done with the charity is we've just carried on my dad's message. That's all we've actually done.
What an amazing legacy for that. And without, like you said, without not really knowing, just coming up with it and just going, let's just see what we do.
It's funny, I've spoken to her, and this is not me beating people up, so forgive me if this comes across badly, what I'm going to say. I don't mean it to. But I've spoken to lots and lots of people over the years since we've had the charity who've said, And I've said, would you like to support us? That's part of what we have to do is get support. Yeah. And I've said to them, and we have loads of support, and it's really wonderful. But so many people have said, oh, yeah, well, we'll support you. I'm going to see what our profits are at the end of the year, see where we stand at the end of the year. And I say to them, just so you're aware, when we started this, we started with debt. Yeah. When's a good time to do something? If you believe in what we're doing, do it now. And that might be supporting us financially. That might be doing an event for us. That might be taking an interest. That might be introducing us to people. Doesn't matter what form it takes. But if you're going to wait until the time is right, then we should end the conversation, because I guarantee you the time is never right. It's never right to do it. The only time to do it is when it's in your head. Do it now. Whatever it is in life, do it now. Get up, walk down the street to find a job. Doesn't matter. Set up a podcast because you want to do it now. When's the right time for anything?